At the end of last week, Business Insider was first to report that the longtime chief financial officer of former President Trump's business, a man named Allen Weisselberg, had been removed as an officer and director from a subsidiary of the Trump business, part of the Trump business, that runs one of the Trump golf courses in Scotland. Now, this news about Weisselberg being taken off that Scottish subsidiary of Trump's company, that of course, follows the indictment a week and a half ago of Mr. Weisselberg and former President Trump's company. The reason that's interesting is actually for a few different reasons. First of all, a multi-count felony indictment has consequences, right? That's a clear material consequence of Mr. Weisselberg's indictment as he now awaits trial. We actually looked into whether Scottish law might have required Mr. Weisselberg to be removed as an officer and a director of that company just because he was indicted. In this case, we don't think that's what happened. We don't think Scottish law would have required his removal from the company. But still, his name came off it. That's interesting in itself. Sort of interested in getting to the bottom of why that happened and why that happened first. The other reason this is interesting and potentially important for us as a country is because, frankly, the stability, the state of mind, and the increasing radicalism of the immediate former president of the United States is a matter of national concern. The big conservative conference, CPAC, that former President Trump spoke at this weekend, they did a straw poll of who attendees of that conference want to be the Republican nominee in 2024. Trump had more than 70% of the vote in that poll. Yeah, look at this bar graph. Who's the front runner? If after everything, he's still the frontrunner for the next Republican presidential nomination, and he's the current de facto leader of the Republican Party, then his stability, his state of mind, his current state of radicalization matters for the country. It matters in terms of what's going to happen next. It also matters in terms of knowing what's politically possible in a country where one of the two supposedly governing parties remains in thrall to him. Even after he was twice impeached, after it took him all of one term in office to lose the Republican Party, not only the White House, but also the Senate and the House. But the 15-count indictment a week and a half ago of his business and its longtime chief financial officer, that has different kinds of consequences for him than all those political consequences he lived through as president. Especially if it means that Trump's companies can no longer be run anymore by the low-key, started as an accountant guy who has been making the trains run on time at that company since 1973. I mean, if Allen Weisselberg can no longer run things at the Trump Organization because of these felony indictments, who else is going to run the place? Don Jr.? Or the blonde son? The other one? Really? Allen Weisselberg has been running that company from the back office for decades. If he's now out and Trump's busy trying to be president again, it's going to be the kids? As I mentioned, Business Insider was first to report last week that Allen Weisselberg is now no longer an officer or director of the Trump Organization subsidiary in Scotland. It was the Wall Street Journal and then the Washington Post that matched that reporting today. The Washington Post further reporting that actually the day after Allen Weisselberg's name got taken off of the subsidiary in Scotland, the next day on Friday, the Trump Organization removed Allen Weisselberg from 40 other companies, 40 other Trump subsidiaries based in the state of Florida. In most instances, Allen Weisselberg appears to have been listed as some combination of director, treasurer, vice president, and or secretary of each of these subsidiaries. Now he's out of all of those titles, and the kids are in instead. What could possibly go wrong? Did I mention that Allen Weisselberg has been running the actual business part of that business since 1973? I'm sure Don Jr. and the blonde son will be fine with it, though. They'll do great. Definitely nothing to worry about. Definitely nothing to freak out about, I'm sure, if you have any stake in that business, let alone a quite large stake. Now, in terms of the effect of that on the stability, the psyche of the former president, I don't know. We don't know for sure. But the dynamic at work with him and around him right now in Republican politics is one of his increasing radicalization and increasing devotion to him among the Republican ranks. I mean, the president's speech at CPAC this weekend included an on-screen disclaimer from the Fox News channel about his false claims about the election. Fox wasn't trying to undercut him. They were broadcasting the speech, after all. Far from that. It's just a practical thing now that anybody broadcasting his remarks, anybody broadcasting his insistent false claims about the last election has to worry about their legal liability in showing that. As the Justice Department continues releasing new video of police officers being hit with metal poles and flagpoles and stomped on and dragged by their body armor and their helmets into surging crowds that beat them and stomped on them on the steps of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. As the Justice Department keeps releasing additional footage like this, Trump proclaimed this weekend about the January 6th rioters, quote, "These were peaceful people. These were great people. The love in the air. I've never seen anything like it." He claimed this weekend that the state of Georgia deleted 100,000 votes in the election. And then in the same breath, he said that Georgia found 35,000 new votes. Both of those things at once, I guess. Maybe he forgot which number he was making up and whether he was supposed to say that was a minus or a plus, whether those votes were lost or were they found. So anyway, he decided to just use both. I mean, it's unhinged stuff, even on the sliding scale of him. I think it's becoming, forgive me, I think it's becoming sort of increasingly unhinged stuff. And maybe some of that has to do with the pressure and desperation he's feeling on the business and personal side of his life. But it manifests in real life because of his hold over the Republican Party and right-wing politics. I mean, there he is waxing rhapsodic about how great the January 6th rioters were. And simultaneously this weekend, here were Trump supporters on the steps of the Florida Capitol this weekend, demanding that all the people who attacked the Capitol and got arrested for it should all be freed because they're all political prisoners and innocent freedom fighters, right? And there's all the Proud Boys lined up in front, all giving the white power symbol with their hands. Because why not? We reported last week on an incumbent Republican U.S. Senator, Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who's facing a primary challenger in his run for re-election this year. The chairman of the state party is endorsing the challenger. The challenger is challenging Lankford specifically because he didn't vote to overturn the election. And the state party is on board with that. Lankford's got to go. This weekend, it happened again. Sitting Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski up for re-election in Alaska, facing a primary challenger from a Trump supporter who says Lisa Murkowski shouldn't have voted to convict Trump in his impeachment trial over the January 6th attack, and Murkowski should have voted to overturn the election results in the Senate to keep Trump in power. And again, perhaps it is not surprising that Lisa Murkowski is facing a Trumpy primary challenge like that in Alaska. But this weekend, try to retain the ability to be surprised, the state Republican Party in Alaska just endorsed that challenger. I don't know what is personally driving the former president, and actually I don't really care to know. But, I'm watching closely the legal jeopardy that he and his family and his business appear to be sinking in under, I think, a reasonable impression that desperation in personal circumstances might manifest as sort of signs of strain in the former president's public pronouncements. But for whatever reason, while these signs of strain are very evident in him, as he is getting more unhinged and definitely more radical in his claims both about the country and his proposed prescriptions for what the country ought to do about the things he says are wrong. I mean, he's demanding that the Republican Party purge those who betrayed him. He demanded today that Michigan Republican state senators who debunked the lies about the Michigan election being stolen, those Michigan Republicans must all be primaried out of office. Right? As he praises the January 6th Capitol attackers, and each new day makes up whole new, brand new lies about the election that he can't even keep straight while he's saying them. As he is going around the bend a little bit right now, for whatever reason, the Republican Party is just clinging to him tighter and tighter and tighter. In Oklahoma, in Alaska, at the CPAC conference this weekend, where they all want him to be president again. The last CPAC conference, he got like 55% of the presidential straw poll. Now he's up to 71. We're seeing simultaneously increasing radicalization from him and increasing commitment to him the further around the bend he goes. Where does that spiral end?